Then I hereby call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair Williams. The roll call: Directors Hartman, Nelson,
Here.
Lavanino,
Here.
Urick,
Here.
Julian,
Here.
Sierra,
Here.
Osborne,
Here.
Waterfield,
Present.
Perotti,
Here.
Clark,
Here.
Rouse,
Here.
and Chair Williams. Director Williams, will we go over some Zoom reminders?
I would love that, and I just want to give a caveat that do not normally believe in sharing from Zoom, but so many of the colleagues are on Zoom this month, so we kind of just had to roll with it. Mr. Nelson, Ms. Hartman, and I are all at SBCAG, California State Association of Counties. So go ahead, Jared.
Okay, yes, just a couple of Zoom reminders. For all panelists, please remember to mute your mic when not speaking. If you would like to make a comment, please use the raise your hand button. If you're an attendee, you will be in listen-only mode. All attendees will remain in listen-only mode unless unmuted by SBCAG staff to provide public comment. Comments from the public are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The public will not be able to share their video or screen. When public comment is called on for an agenda item, attendees can use the raise your hand button to express desire to provide public comment for that item, and you will be unmuted when it's your turn. Those calling in on the phone can dial *9 to raise your hand. And those include my Zoom reminders.
Thank you, Terry. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, is there any public comment on items not on the agenda?
Chair Williams, we want to request a public comment from Mr. Brian Adams.
Mr. Adams.
Oh, thank you.
We sure can, so please proceed.
I've got some issues here, and I want some accountability on this tax, on the property tax and the sewage issue. City of Santa Maria charges $56 a month for sewage, and I've got a bill for, I believe it's almost $1,800 for sewage this year, along with sweeping the streets and yada. I've been in my house for 20 years. My family's been here since the 40s, and it looks to me like we're paying for all this new construction going on from these new houses. That's supposed to be all laid in line, and soon people seem to put up their line. I don't know what the deal is with me having paid 3 times the amount of sewage fees. I'm sorry.
No, it's up here. It's up here.
Oh, that's why.
I'm just walking up.
Anyhow, I'd like some accountability on this issue with the sewage going up so much on the property taxes. You know, I did a remodel to my home in 2004, and I had a one room and stuff, but the Prop 13 state has been adjusted, but these sewage bill going up every month, every year, $200-300 is pretty ridiculous. When the city of Santa Maria is only charging $56 a month for sewage to the people that live in the city of Santa Maria. I'm in the unincorporated area, and I live in a cul-de-sac. I've never had my street swept, and you know, I'm paying for all these services, and I'm not getting them. I have to go and clean my neighbor's got a gopher epidemic in her yard. I have to go clean the drains, otherwise my house gets flooded when it rains. And you know, this stuff just seems to go unnoticed by the road department. I noticed they chip sealed the express or by the airport there, the main road there coming into Santa Maria, but nobody did any patching before they did that. I've got over 25 years of experience doing asphalt and chip sealing on roads. And you don't go and put chips over where a road needs to be patched, and it hasn't even been marked. There's still got just little paint lines out there. That's been over a month and a half ago. you know, you guys are setting yourselves up for liability for the city if somebody gets in an accident out there, as well as the road wasn't done correctly. It should have been patched before it was sealed. You know, I urge you guys to have a better look at this stuff because there's just throwing money from one hand to the other, and there's no guarantee on any of this stuff. Because once it starts raining, that road's gonna lift back up or need to be patched. So, and then my other issue is this critical race theory in the schools. I wonder
Thank you, sir. I just want to let you know the procedure. We, like all public bodies, allow public comment for items that are not on our agenda, even as those two issues not within the jurisdiction of SBCAG. Though there are 5 supervisors that do serve on SBCAG, and it looks like your local supervisor just gave you a note so you could follow up. And so it is not within our ability to respond today, especially to both because the items are outside our jurisdiction and because the Brown Act prevents us from just taking up an issue without public noticing. Okay?
Jan, I understand Bob's got his hand up.
Great.
Director Williams, Chair Williams?
Yes. Mr. Nathan?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Adams, I appreciate you coming to the hearing today to bring this up. My office will reach out to you directly. I will reach out to you directly to get some more information on your concerns, and we can meet and discuss that. I'll be in touch with you within the next week.
Very good. I've tried before, but I'm glad we got to touch base today because I have a lot of good stuff to offer you. And
Thank you.
save some money for this town.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chair Williams?
Yes.
We
Is there
have
any more public comment?
Yes, we have one more request for public comment, Mr. John Wilson.
Mr. Wilson?
Come on up.
Morning, how are you? I'm just gonna voice my concern, on a crosswalk in Guadalupe on Main Festival. And, the sun comes up from the east and it goes down the west. At a certain time of day, you cannot see the signal and you can't even see the crosswalk. You almost come up to it and it's like a quarter of a mile from Simpson to Obispo, and there's no warning or nothing, and people are going down fast, and you press that sign. Someone's gonna walk across their line, they don't even see it, and they're gonna get smashed, and it's solar paneling thing is flashing yellow. When I was taught, flashing yellow means slow down, it doesn't mean stop. I think they should put a red thing, let people stop, they don't even, they just keep going. Someone's gonna cross that in a chair or something, for safety reasons, they're gonna get hit. And that sign was knocked down earlier this year on the north side, and it wasn't put up for like a week or so. And I've gone to the Guadalupe chief, and he said he called, and I called Caltran, and they said, oh, you have to call the safety thing and all that. So I suggested they put up a stop sign. They have one going north and south, one east and west of that corner. It's a county road, and they're going down there pretty fast, and there's no warning on the streets, there's a crosswalk ahead. And they're going smoking down there. The speed limit's 45, but a lot of people are going faster than that. It's just my concern for safety. I don't know if you've ever gone down that way and checked it, but certain time of day, the sun is in your eyes, you can't even see that little flashing yellow thing, and you can't even see the signs, you come up to it. So I'm calling, and finally, I think Corey's going to have to come and voice my concern for safety reasons.
Thank you. You've come to the right place. We are not allowed to be responding to because of the Brown Act on an ad hoc basis. If your public comment is definitely heard.
Chair Williams?
Yes.
Director Julian has his hand raised.
Director Julian.
Chair Williams, thank you. Mr. Lopez can contact our city administrator and Shannon Sweeney, our Public Works Director, because we're working with Caltrans and with SBCAG on the issue. Thanks for the comments.
Yeah, but
Thank you, Director Julian.
But it seems like nobody's doing nothing, you know, everybody, all, no action, but just remember, the Titanic, it wasn't supposed to sink either. One of these days, somebody's gonna get hit.
And thank you for your public comment, but and this is definitely the right place to say something, though. Yeah, we do not have a back and forth conversation. We're prohibited by law from doing that. Okay. Thank you so much.
How do I know if someone's looking into it or anything like that?
Director Julian is a city council member in the city of Guadalupe, and it seems like he will make sure it is brought to the city manager's attention.
So I have to go to the city?
Come to me, over here.
Oh, you, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public comment, Terry?
Chair Williams, that's the end of public comment.
Great. Now, for the consent calendar, is there any items that a member of that the public or a director wishes to withdraw from the consent calendar?
Yes, Chair Williams, I like to have item B, 4B as a roll call vote. And then I had a couple questions on 4F.
Well, let's ask the questions on F and before we do a separate vote on the COVID findings.
I'll read 4F into the record.
Great.
Item 4F, Active Transportation Program ATP Cycle 6 update. Receive update on the California Transportation Commission CTC staff recommendations for Active Transportation Program ATP Cycle 6.
Thank you, Chair Williams. Just pull this item, one in part to celebrate. I know we had a mention of this at the last SBCAG meeting. There were some significant ATP grants awarded in Santa Barbara County, and there's a lot for all of us to be proud of. I'm especially proud of the work that Caltrans did with our office in the county to secure the $8.5 million for Los Alamos. But when I was taking a look at the list, there's still some of our projects that aren't making it through the process. And I know it was a highly competitive process. Just wanted the opinion of SBCAG staff. The two projects that were that didn't make it through were county projects. And so just wanted to get some feedback on what we can do for, I guess, cycle 7, if there is one, that we can try to be more competitive. Some significant dollar amounts all throughout the county. And I know, and I originally thought that, Los Alamos was such a competitive grant in part because of the socioeconomic impact there. But when I look at, the grants that were awarded throughout our county, it doesn't seem like that was the only criteria. And so, what can we do in bolstering up some of our applications in the future for other portions of our county, and how can we work with SBCAG and our other jurisdictions to get those higher to or closer to the top? Thank you.
Chair Williams.
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chair Williams. Director Nelson Sarkis-Kachik, SBCAG. Thank you for the question. So SBCAG staff has already contacted the California Transportation Commission for all of the individual score sheets, and I believe we shared them with our partner agencies. So what we can do is provide the score sheets, and then California Transportation Commission staff has also offered debrief meetings with the applicants. So we can help coordinate that if the county wishes so, but that's where the county will be able to get direct feedback on all the various sections and how the project application fared in each one. And then as we move forward, we can provide any support to the county. But one note I did want to share is that each cycle is different with the scoring criteria. So SBCAG staff make sure to participate in the guidelines process and advocate. And so we'll try to see how those different sections can be improved in coordination with the county.
Thank you. Really appreciate that, Sarkis.
Do you wish that for a separate vote, Mr.
No, okay. I'm quite happy.
And then we will look at the COVID findings. Please read that item.
Thank you, Chair Williams. Item 4B, reconsider the circumstances of the COVID-19 state of emergency. 4B1, reconsider the circumstances of the COVID-19 state of emergency. 4B2, consider whether state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. 4B3, find that the SBCAG board has reconsidered the circumstances of the state of emergency and that state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. And 4B4, direct staff to continue to notice and hold hearings as remote hearings consistent with Government Code 54953E3.
The request from Mr. Nelson is just for a separate vote. Is there a motion on this item?
Director Sierra makes the motion, please.
Is there a second?
Director Yurek, second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Hartman, Nelson,
No.
Lavanino.
Aye.
Yurek.
Aye.
Julian.
Aye.
Osborne.
Aye.
Waterfield.
Aye.
Perotti.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Rouse.
Aye.
and Chair Williams. Motion passes 9-1.
Thank you. Can I get a separate motion on the balance of the consent calendar? Mr. Nelson, would you like to make that motion?
I'd be happy to. I make a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar, item 4.
I'll second that.
So first by Nelson, second by Brody. Roll call,
Sorry.
please. Discussion?
Brody, okay. Brody.
Discussion on the item?
I'm sorry.
Any discussion on the item, directors?
Chair Williams, I neglected to call Director Sierra for the vote.
Thank
For
you.
the
Thank
roll
you,
call vote,
Terry.
so I'm assuming-
Yes, I say aye on that last vote. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know. I try not to miss people, but sometimes I do. Okay. So now for the remainder of the consent calendar, motion by Nelson, second by Perotti. Roll call vote is Director Hartman.
Chair, pardon me, Susan McKenzie, County Counsel's Office. If we can ask for public comment on the consent calendar and the items on that calendar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Chair Williams, thank you, Director Council McKenzie, for reminding us. No, we have no request for public comment.
Okay, then proceed with the roll call.
Okay. Nelson,
Aye.
Lavanino,
Aye.
Yurek,
Aye.
Julian,
Aye.
Sierra,
Aye.
Osborne,
Aye.
Waterfield,
Aye.
Perotti,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Rouse,
Aye.
and Chair Williams.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item 5.
Okay, let's go to, no, I've got to find item 5 here. So many papers. Item 5A, Broadband Digital Equity Coalition. Receive a presentation from the Santa Barbara Foundation on its digital equity work.
Right, Director Williams, or Chair Williams, and directors, Mike Becker, SBCAG staff. I'm here to introduce the Digital Equity Coalition team, who will be giving a presentation on their work today. But the Digital Equity Coalition is an initiative that resulted from the Broadband Strategic Plan development process, with a focus on implementing the goals of California Broadband for All, which include affordability, adoption, and digital literacy. The Santa Barbara Foundation is the convener of this group, and Ruby Estes, the Vice President of Programs, is here to give the presentation. Thanks.
Chair Williams and directors, my name is Ruby Estes, Vice President of Programs, and with me, we have Petra Gomez, the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships at the Santa Barbara Foundation, and Shelby Arthur, who's the Collaborative Coordinator for BCPC. We really do appreciate your time today. We'll spend about 10 minutes on the presentation and have ample time for Q&A. I'll begin with a brief overview of the Foundation's work. We have evolved over time, and also follow with the scope of the Digital Equity Coalition. Many of you are already familiar with this work, so we'll breeze through those, but also talk about opportunities for partnership. Next slide. So the Santa Barbara's mission is really aligned to lean in as a cross-sector convener, and this opportunity particularly to leverage a number of our strategic priorities, and we'll go over those. And also our partners with the issue areas that we work with to create the space for Digital Equity Coalition focused on connectivity in underserved communities, digital literacy, and e-learning opportunities. So as part of the Broadband Strategic Plan, the BCPC recommended the Santa Barbara Foundation in the plan as the community convener, and that's why we are here today as part of the Digital Equity Coalition. Next slide. So these are the many areas where the foundation invests human capital, financial capital, and research resources, not only within our county, but also in the Tri-County region. On this wheel, each section can be improved by access, affordability, and digital literacy. We worked with community-based organizations that serve the communities that have been pushed to the margins in order to increase access to healthcare, behavioral health, food, shelter, and coordinated care. We also work with municipalities, nonprofits, colleges, including library systems, to invest in our workforce to access growth industries and build career pathways. We support safe, high-quality access to childcare for our workforce, and to sustain all of these areas, we invest in research, good policy, and capacity building in the sector. So our strength really lies in collaboration, but also in learning from our partners. We are definitely generalists in this region. In a later slide, we'll speak to stakeholders of the Digital Equity Coalition, and we hope areas of this work will resonate with you as you look at that opportunity to curate participatory data, generate knowledge with our partners, and also work with the steering committee. The steering committee includes agencies like the Family Service Agency. They work in Guadalupe, Carpinteria, Isla Vista, Cuyama Valley, local education agencies, LEAs that extend reach to Ballard, Sisquoc, Casmalia, among others, and healthcare providers that integrate behavioral health screening, community action agencies, social services, and housing authorities. All of this to say that our work really is centered in equity and inclusion, but it's also informed by those that we're serving. Next slide, please. So this is very familiar to you. The DEC, which is Digital Equity Coalition, I'm going to shorten that, is about convening, collaborating, and communication, but as the team has said best, it is a coalition is an action-oriented word. There are numerous efforts running in parallel in Santa Barbara County, and this is a wonderful opportunity to catalyze those efforts through coordination, rapid learning, and implementation. So the DEC is an initiative emerging from the Broadband Strategic Plan intended to align regional efforts to close the digital divide with the California Broadband for All goals. So the DEC is connected to these statewide goals, so we are ready, poised, positioned with SBCAG to be eligible for state resources as they come into the future. Next slide, please. I apologize, a lot of this work is familiar to you, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to bridge our work in this setting. So in looking at the impact and challenges of the digital divide cycle, which is the gap between those with access and capacity to use technology, and then those left out of opportunities provided by digital access. The digital divide disproportionately impacts people of color, Indigenous peoples, households with low income, people with disabilities, people in rural areas, and older adults. In order to find solutions, SBCAG is the lead on the strategic plan and infrastructure design build process. Within the Broadband Strategic Plan, the DEC is designed to address the people portion of this work, focusing on communities and the organizations that serve these individuals and families. So for example, one of the challenges that has been identified has been the lack of awareness of training resources, which is often driven by the lack of language and cultural access and or geographic isolation. The DEC and the foundation can pull from our experiences, such as our work in the community includes FSA's collaborative to increase hot meals to isolated seniors, increasing language and cultural literacy for family and home care providers working with CCRC, Alzheimer's Association, Lompoc Valley Community Healthcare Association, and there's many more. And then partnerships like the community health worker and Promotores capacity building effort. And this one is Tri-County. We work with Promotores, Center for Family Strengthening and SLO, MyCOP, public health agencies, and hospitals. Another challenge that's been identified is that the hotspots are insufficient. So the speed is insufficient for students and families to be online at the same time. But to resolve that issue, we need to identify the community-based organizations that are in those communities to identify the families and be those trusted messengers on accessing broadband and available subsidies in the community. But how do we know who's who? So the foundation is working with UCSB Evaluation Center to create heat maps for community-based organizations' service areas. So this is not just their addresses on where they're located, which is how we usually find that data, but actually where they are working. We hope that this map will allow us to layer over the ISP data that's created, as reported by the CPUC on service areas, low quality service, and broadband deserts as BCPC continues to collect the speed test data. So we're really hoping for a geospatial layering of opportunities to find solutions where there's gaps in service. Next slide. So our objectives and goals are very much aligned with the SBCAG goals, as I mentioned. But the foundation centers its work in equity and also representation. And this is really important because the coalition organizations, the coalition allows us to connect organizations across the county that are committed to already improving digital inclusion in the communities they serve, including affordability, adoption rates, and digital literacy. We've found in our work that some of the smallest organizations that are not on people's radars have the best access to communities that are really far in the margins because often they're born of the communities that we're trying to serve. And as a foundation and being over 90 years old, we have the pleasure of having those communities in our network. Next slide. I know there's a clarity issue here, but I hope you can see those. So this is the slide I was referring to in the beginning. We're really hoping that these sectors of engagement that are identified here look familiar to you. You're on it. Not only the foundation's strategic priorities, but also that it is very much like this hub and spokes model that SBCAG has employed as part of the strategic plan. This is that wonderful opportunity to bring our relationships, our collective relationships between SBCAG and Santa Barbara Foundation. We work with everyone on this wheel. To engage all of our stakeholders in advancing the goals of the plan. Next slide. I think this speaks to the steering committee. Specifically, while we're aligned with the Broadband for All and the strategic plan, the flow of the work does prioritize and is prioritized by the steering committee itself. It's informed by the participating organizations, the data that's collected, their activities, community outreach, and the feedback that we receive. Information gleaned from the communities and the BCPC will help us identify those gaps and deploy those strategic initiatives. This flow is really created to confirm the roles of the steering committee, so we hope it's in your packets, that it kind of gives you the sense of what part those individual organizations as a collective will play. Next slide. These are the Digital Equity Coalition Charter goals that have been identified and are will definitely resonate with you. The affordability of broadband, internet-enabled devices, digital literacy, these are all of the areas that either SBCAG, Santa Barbara Foundation, and or the partners have been engaged in. So these parallel efforts can come to a congruence in this DEC. Next slide, please. This is a little bit about our timeline. So on beginning October 27th, there was a series of informational meetings that were held with prospective steering committee members. November 10th was a leadership kickoff and the shared funding opportunities. December and January really will hold that time for funding review and partner updates. And then in February 2023, DEC kicks off with all partners and formulates that action plan for Santa Barbara County. It may seem like a tight timeline, but it's feasible because of the work that's already been in place in this county amongst public and private partners. Next slide, please. This will be my last one. In the end, the relationship with SBCAG would allow us to work in congruence countywide. each municipality and with public sector champions. So we do have a call to action today. You don't have to make a decision, but we'd like you to consider an MOU with the Digital Equity Coalition and the Santa Barbara Foundation to focus on connectivity in underserved communities, digital literacy, and e-learning opportunities as part of the broadband strategic plan. And I'll stop there, and my colleagues and I are here to take questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Questions from directors? Why don't we start in the north?
More a comment than anything, just thank you to the foundation for being able to head this effort up for broadband throughout Santa Barbara County and working so diligently from the very beginning and being our advocate for all of the communities that are underserved at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Uhrig. Questions, comments from the South?
Chair Williams, Director Julian has his hand raised.
Great. Well, we'll go to online afterwards. I just trying to do it linearly. So any questions, comments from the South?
Director Sierra?
Thank you.
I just want to thank you very much, and Santa Barbara Foundation, which does amazing work in our county. I think your goals align identically with our goals, and the more we can work together, I think the more chance we have of making this happen. So thank you very much for your presentation.
And then questions, comments from online, starting with Director Julian.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo the same comments I'm making regarding the Santa Barbara Foundation, also for SBCAG staff presenting there at our last council meeting in the city of Guadalupe. I appreciate that connectivity. Well, thank you.
And Director Perotti.
Well, I will as well echo what my colleagues have just said. I feel like we are really in good hands with this coalition, and I thank them very much for all the work that they will be putting into this, and they have already. Thank you.
And I'll add my voice in praise as well. I think this is a really cutting edge effort, both by you in the nonprofit sector and by SBCAG. I want to just add something on digital literacy, or highlight something in particular, which is the need for, what we did find, at least had some input at our public forums from some of our public health personnel in their private capacity, was that they were noticing real increase of screen time and body mass index. And just so an obvious thing to highlight in digital literacy is parental controls, the time limits on devices, so that parents who aren't always able to have 100% supervision because they're trying to survive here in Santa Barbara County and have more than one job, so that they can still exercise control and are, help educated as how to exercise control over their kids' screen use. So just some highlight. Really appreciate your visionary participation, and I would very much support making a more spelled out relationship in the kind of form of an agreement.
Thank you.
Chair Williams, Director Nelson would like to speak.
Director Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Williams. Yeah, I was going to speak to the MOU, and was just curious on when that comes back, are we going to be able to see what work is being done already, and kind of layer that on top of what will be outlined and completed through the Santa Barbara Foundation. I think a lot of our current organizations that have been engaged in this process has been doing a lot of the important outreach to these communities in need. I represent some of the more significant ones in North County: Casamalia, Los Alamos, Tabasco, Gary, Sisquoc. And so we're having these conversations out there with our constituents. Would love to be partnering more and understanding where all those pieces fit as we move forward. So that's just my comment and request. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Nelson. Shall I respond?
Absolutely.
It would be our pleasure to put a memo together. I know this team has been out there with affordable connectivity program events, and we've already seen an increase of 3% of use since 2% of use. Is that in enrollment in the ACP program since these forums have started? So it would be our pleasure to synthesize those for our own kind of education and celebration.
Any other questions, comments from board members that I missed? Well, we will definitely be following up with you then. And this is a presentation only, not an action. But thank you both, you as foundation staff and to all your partners for this effort.
Thank you, Chair Williams.
And Chair Williams, just a reminder, there's no public comment for this item.
Great. Then let's move on to item 6.
It's actually item 5B. Draft airport land use compatibility plans. Review and comment on the draft airport land use compatibility plans and associated initial study.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, directors. So my name is Andrew Arfila, Principal Transportation Planner here at SBCAG, and your Airport Land Use Commission staff lead. This item this morning is a public hearing for the update of our airport land use compatibility plans. We've also put out an initial study and negative declaration. And we're here to request your review and comments on the item. And I apologize, usually in the boardroom here, we have the slides on a giant screen here, but we only have them on the small TV. So I do have a few maps, but they'll be a little bit hard to read. So this slide shows you the coverage, geographic coverage of the project, the public airports in Santa Maria, Lompoc, San Ynez, and Santa Barbara, as well as the Vandenberg Space Force Base. And what I'm going to cover today is the airport land use plan and our project update history. We've been working on the project for over a decade. And we'll cover what our most recent, this is our third update cycle. So I'll cover what we've been doing as a part of our third update cycle now, which we've been working on for about a year. I'll cover also our CEQA process and our next steps. So we do have an adopted airport land use plan. It was adopted in 1993. SBCAG has been the Airport Land Use Commission since 1990. As I mentioned, we've gone through 3 update cycles. We received a grant from the Caltrans Division of Aeronautics in 2010, allowed us to prepare a countywide airport land use compatibility plan. We brought that to the board in 2012. The grant was not enough for us to do environmental review of the plan. We received another grant from Caltrans in 2016. Allowed us to redefine the project and the plan for the purposes of CEQA. And we prepared an environmental document for that as well. We identified a few issues, particularly around the Santa Barbara Airport land use compatibility plan. And at the time, we brought the plan forward to the board, and the board directed staff to work with our local partner jurisdictions to resolve those issues. And as part of this current third update cycle, we were able to resolve those issues. And I have some additional details on those coming up in the next few slides. So at the sub-regionals, last week I went through the roles and responsibilities of the Airport Land Use Commission and the powers and duties that come with that under state law. And really, the roles and responsibilities of the Airport Land Use Commission are to ensure compatible land use planning near airports, coordinate planning and protect public health and safety and welfare, and to review land use actions of local agencies and airport operators. So when we come to the board with these projects, you tend to see general plan amendments and master plan updates, and we have to review those land use actions and see if they're consistent with the Airport Land Use Plan. There are some limitations to what the Airport Land Use Commission can do. The ALUCP policies do not apply to existing built land uses or airport operations, and our policies do not apply to proposed land use actions on federal, state, or tribal lands. So generally speaking, when we prepare the airport land use compatibility plans, we follow the guidance in the California Airport Land Use Planning Handbook, and the handbook was put out in 2011. So as I mentioned, we have a 1993 Airport Land Use Plan. It's outdated. We're trying to update our plan to become consistent with that 2011 handbook. And the handbook recommends that we follow, when we're putting these plans together, the planning assumptions need to be based on the airport master plans or the airport layout plans from our local airports. We have to include a minimum 20-year planning horizon in our ALUCPs, and we have to develop our policies in the ALUCPs so that they balance orderly growth at the airports with safeguarding the welfare of the inhabitants within the vicinity of the airport and the public in general. So we're going to be coming back to your board next month requesting that you adopt each of the 5 plans, and then we're not really going to be done. Under state law, there's a requirement that the local agencies amend their general plans to be compatible with the airport land use compatibility plans. Our local jurisdictions, our partner jurisdictions as part of this process are the City of Santa Maria, the City of Lompoc, City of Goleta, City of Santa Barbara, and the County of Santa Barbara. And so we've been working and coordinating with the planners as part of our Technical Planning Advisory Committee on the plan updates, and they've been in the loop on the changes to the plans, the environmental document, and the requirements to amend these general plans moving forward. And the requirement for the amendment to the general plans is a 6-month. They have to update and amend the general plans within 6 months of the commission adopting these ALUCPs. This slide shows you the contents that the handbook requires that we include in the airport land use compatibility plans. So these are the policies that we include: overflight, airspace protection, noise, and safety. And I'm not going to go into detail too much on how we develop the policies in this slide. We did a deep dive earlier this week. We had 2 public meetings where we went over how we develop the policies and the plans for each of these 4 factors. But if you're interested in learning more about these policies, they're all included in Chapter 3 of the plans. And again, I'm going to apologize. You can't really see the slide here, the safety zones. This is the Santa Barbara Airport land use compatibility plan safety zones. So I wanted to call this up specifically because, as we mentioned earlier, the board directed staff to work with our local jurisdiction partners to resolve their concerns at the conclusion of the second update cycle in summer 2019. And through 2020, the City of Goleta worked with an aviation consultant to recommend changes to the Santa Barbara Airport land use compatibility plan. And Goleta's aviation consultant issued a technical memorandum and recommended changes in late 2020. And SBCAG staff, along with Caltrans at the time, concurred with those recommendations. And the changes were incorporated into the updated draft ALUCP for the Santa Barbara Airport. And staff has been working throughout the spring and summer to update technical documentation and the initial study for each of the ALUCPs. So the next few slides will focus primarily on the environmental review that we did for the project. So each of the 5 plans was defined as a project for purposes of CEQA, and staff prepared an initial study. And the technical reports, referred to as displacement analyses, were prepared, and the findings in the initial study support the preparation of a negative declaration. We circulated for public review the IS&D on October 27th, and comments are due back to staff on December 2nd. We prepared updated displacement analysis technical reports for each of the 5 airports. Most of the bulk of the work was done as part of our second update cycle back in 2018, but we revised and amended the Santa Barbara Airport report as a result of the changes to those safety zones that I showed on the prior slide. And the implementation of the policies, the reason why we do the environmental review is the implementation of these policies, primarily for safety and noise, can affect future land uses. And we focused on primarily on residential and non-residential uses on vacant and underutilized parcels. So our findings from the environmental analysis show that there would be no displacement of residential uses within the airport environs. And there would be some displacement of non-essential land uses, such as fairgrounds, zoos, and oil and gas uses. And the finding is that development of these uses in the future would be speculative, and even if displaced, would not be considered an environmental impact. So the next steps for us is that our public comment period wraps on December 2nd, and we have our review for our submittal steps here on the slide for submitting comments. We have a distribution list that we've sent out via email, and a stakeholder list of about 80 folks that that are aware of the project. We've had public meetings this week to go over the plan as well. Comments can be submitted via mail to SBCAG or to me via email. That's my contact information there on the screen. Want to mention very quickly, we're going to be back at the board next month requesting adoption of the plans and certification of the environmental document. So that concludes the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from board members?
Chair Williams, Director Prodi has her hand raised.
Director Prodi.
Thank you.
Oh, yep, you muted yourself.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. This is more of a comment. I just want to make a comment that, when I started in 2010, this topic came up at a council meeting, and it was standing room only. So it was really, people were paying attention and quite concerned. And so this has been a long process, a lot of work, but I'm here to express my appreciation to staff for all the work they put into this and working collaboratively with our jurisdiction, our city. Peter Imhoff, our Director of Planning and Environmental Control would love to be here, but he's in a meeting actually with someone from the airport right now, the new director, and as well as Robert Nisbet, our new city manager, and Ann Wells. They worked really hard on this as well. But I hope you all received, basically, I'm just hoping that you've all received the letter that states that after review of this revised draft, city staff has determined that all of the city's previous comments have been adequately addressed by SBCAG staff by incorporating all the city's recommended edits to the airport land use compatibility plan. So again, thank you. Thank you so much for working collaboratively with us.
Wow, it's always great to have a moment where the process worked, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Other comments or questions? And we want to make sure we go to public comment as well.
Chair Williams, Director Nelson.
Director Nelson.
Thank you, Chair Williams. I guess my question is that, this is mostly a technical process. Where does this commission or these board of directors, where does it come in that we have discretion? What are the decision points that we may be able to alter this document? Is it just, it's gone through the process and it's just, these are the recommendations and we move forward from a technical perspective? A lot of this is beyond my expertise personally, but I'm just kind of curious on how that process works for all of us. Is this something that we can shrink areas, make them larger? Do we have that level of discretion? Are the decision points for this board as we finally approve this, or is it maybe a take it or leave it document moving forward.
Director Nelson and directors, this is your opportunity to review the plans now. I would suppose, and the comments are due through December 2nd. But certainly, we're open to if you have any feedback on the plans. We're open to ideas, or if you'd like more information, definitely would suggest that you contact myself or our planning manager, Mike Becker, for more information.
Well, I guess the question would go, where at which places in this process do we have discretion?
Maybe I can answer that question.
Mike Becker.
Okay.
So with the plan, it's a very fine balance between what the state is requiring of us and what we can do to incorporate that. So I think, and it became very apparent with Goleta, where we had to work to really refine that balance of what's required of us and what we can do. However, as this plan gets adopted, then future land use decisions that require a general plan amendment come to this board for consistency review. And the board can find different projects consistent or inconsistent with the plan. And ultimately, what would happen then, it goes, if we find something inconsistent, it would go back to the city council or the board of supervisors, who can overrule our finding or accept it. But through this, there is potentially some opportunity for some refinements, but however, it is a very fine line of what Caltrans requires of us and what these plans look like.
Yeah, and I think that comes to exactly where I'm coming from. Is this seems like it might just be a rubber stamp. That these are technical requirements that come to us and that we just have to move forward. If there are specific decision points that have greater discretion from the board directors, I'd love to know which portions of the plan that I can hone in on and take a look at and potentially have input that is consistent with representation of my area in my district.
And Director Nelson, I think we're happy we could reach out to your staff and schedule a meeting to discuss the impacts of the Santa Maria Airport and the Orchid community, and walk you through what this plan does for land use in Orchid.
Yeah, I really want to focus in on where the discretion is. A lot of this is, again, outside of what we can, input we can give. And, but yeah, please definitely reach out and help us understand that a little bit better. And also the Lompoc Airport, my district straddles the city of Lompoc and the unincorporated area of the Lompoc Valley. So that'd be helpful. Thanks, Mr. Becker.
Mr. Chair, Director Rouse here. From the city of Santa Barbara's perspective as well, when we look at any kind of land use or development decisions, we're talking about under the purview of the FAA, TSA, as well as Coastal Commission. So I think Director Nelson's comments are pertinent, because the amount of real discretion we have is pretty limited, even as a city who owns the airport. So, and a lot of the issues that are regional, that have comments about them, are quasi in our control, quasi not in our control. So fortunately, we have our new airport director is Lady Santa Maria, so he understands a lot of these regional issues.
And I'm far from an expert, but it does, it's a balance, right? It's a significant control on our land use control authority of any jurisdiction around it. If you go one direction, and then of course the other direction, you have a lot of people living in a place that can be inconvenienced.
Yeah, thank you, Director Williams. And I will note, and Andrew, during his presentation, noted the limitations of the Airport Land Use Commission and what our role is. And I know that we definitely take a lot of calls from residents of the city of Goleta related to noise. I know, Director Nelson, you've been CC'd on emails that come to us related to noise and Orchid. The Airport Land Use Commission looks at essentially to not make it any worse in the future than it already is in terms of inconsistencies with the airport. But I know the issues are out there. We hear of them. And the best we can do is, inform the public of what we're doing, what our role and responsibility is, and to point them in the right direction to talk directly to the airports or to talk to the city staff.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Chair Williams, we received no request for public comment other than the city of Goleta letter, which was distributed to the board members.
And my understanding, we do not need a motion on this, but this
Chair
is your
Williams, excuse me, Director Urick has a question.
Great. Director Urick.
Thank you, Chair Williams. Just noting that there were 2 public meetings that took place on Tuesday, November 15th. Are there any plans to have any other type of media blasts going out prior to December 2nd for maybe a little bit more saturation of the entire area that might be watching television or some type of social media platform?
I can respond to that. There was, as required, we did purchase several ads both in Santa Maria Times, Lompoc Record, and Cineas Valley News, and then also in the South Coast Santa Barbara News Press, and then did a media release about that. And so we can certainly share another media release from there with others. And then we have as Andrew mentioned, we have a significant stakeholder list that have signed up, members of the public and stakeholders who have signed up to keep informed with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Urick. And this isn't your last opportunity, but my understanding that will come back to us for final action. So if you do have input, or if you end up having constituents who have input that you wish to convey, please do so in the next month. Is that the correct timeline, or next couple weeks?
The public comment period for the CEQA document ends December 2nd. But again, it will be on your agenda at your next meeting for adoption. So that obviously is an opportunity for public comment, but it would be very difficult to incorporate that public comment if it were required to do so at that meeting. So December 2nd is our recommended comment period.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Then let's move on to the next item.
Thank you, Chair Williams. Next item is item 5C, US 101 Business Plan. Receive presentation from Caltrans District 5 on development of US 101 Business Plan and provide feedback.
Thank you, Chair Williams. I'll introduce the item from Santa Barbara and then hand it off to Caltrans. Thank you, Chair Williams. Good morning, Director Sarkis Kacek, Director of Programming at SBCAG. We are here to provide your board and the public with an update on the draft US 101 Business Plan. For context, SBCAG is a member of the Central Coast Coalition, which is a coalition of regional transportation planning agencies on the Central Coast within Caltrans District 5. So there are 5 of us, and we formed in 2010 to raise the profile of Highway 101 on the Central Coast and to highlight the significance of the corridor on the state and national level. Additional information, Executive Director Kern serves as the chair of the Central Coast Coalition. We've been working in partnership with Caltrans District 5 on this plan for some time, and Caltrans is ready to provide an update. I wanted to share that all items included for the staff report are linked in the staff report, and that the Technical Transportation Advisory Committee did receive a presentation on this draft plan at their meeting 2 weeks ago. So with that, we are joined by Madeline Jacobson, Vanessa Fowl, and Matt Welker with Caltrans District 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarkis, and I'll start us off. But first, I want to check, are you guys able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Those of us online, yes.
Okay. So again, thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Vanessa Fowl, and I am a transportation planner with Caltrans District 5. And with me today is Matt. Matt, please go ahead.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Matt Welker, and I am also a transportation planner with Caltrans District 5's System Investment Planning.
Perfect. So Sarkis has already mentioned this. So after years of working with the Central Coast Coalition, I'm very excited to share that we finally have a draft of our final US 101 business plan ready to share with you. And the draft plan can be found on SBCAG's programming website, which was linked to in the agenda packet. And we are here today to ask you for final feedback to be sent to us by the end of this month, November 30th. And I know it has been a while since we've last presented this plan to the board. So today's presentation serves as a refresher for people who are already familiar with the US 101 business plan. And for people who are hearing about this for the first time, we hope to introduce you to the plan and spark some interest. So we hope this refresher / introduction will aid your review of our draft US 101 business plan. And with that said, I'm going to jump into the content. The US 101 business plan was initiated by an action item proposed by Central Coast Coalition members following the California Transportation Commission workshop in Salinas a few years ago. And our US 101 business plan follows the model of the Central Valley's State Route 99 business plan, which helped the corridor receive $1 billion in bonds in 2006. So the purpose of our business plan is to provide the data, strategy, and community support needed to secure financial investment in the US 101 corridor. Next slide, please. The US 101 business plan serves as a roadmap to achieving the corridor's goals, and it has a very strong foundation by using existing corridor plans and building onto them. We actually also conducted a set of focus groups and also did an online survey, and all of the findings are presented in a plan. In addition to that, the business plan identifies US 101 corridor transportation projects and examines how well those identified improvements will serve the corridor. And here it is important to note that we're not adding any new projects, and we're only using projects that have already been identified. The business plan states the total funding need and identifies funding sources which help with linking specific corridor projects to potential funding programs. And I know I've already mentioned that Caltrans District 6 had created the Central Valley State Route 99 business plan, but I do want to highlight its importance one more time. The 99 plan showcased the importance of the State Route 99 corridor, and it identified investment needs prior to Proposition 1B in 2006, which ultimately provided $1 billion in bonds for State Route 99 improvements. So again, our plan follows the State Route 99 business plan model, and we hope that our US 101 business plan will provide a medium to communicate with policymakers, partners, and the public in the future.
All right, I'll take over. As you folks can see, the map on the screen shows the Caltrans District 5 counties and US 101 segmented by different colors. In District 5, the US 101 spans from the Santa Barbara-Ventura County line, and it extends north to the San Benito-Santa Clara County line. Since this is such a long stretch with a myriad of different needs, the business plan development team decided to divide the corridor into 11 segments. Segment breaks were determined by traffic flow, land use patterns, and Central Coast Coalition and Technical Advisory Committee feedback. And a variation of this segmentation was also established previously in the US 101 Transportation Concept Report. As you can see on the screen, and as Vanessa had previously mentioned, the business plan was established as a partnership effort between the Central Coast Coalition and Caltrans District 5. And while Caltrans is the lead of the US 101 business plan, coalition members were collaborative during all stages of development. They helped establish objectives, provided regionally significant data, and acted as a first reviewer for all of our edits throughout the development process. Regular edits and updates of the plan have occurred monthly, while our most recent distribution of the plan took place August 31st, 2022, with a review period scheduled throughout September. And on the screen, you can see the signed charter from the business plan, which was paramount in establishing the objectives and intended outcomes of the plan. These objectives and outcomes were derived directly from the regional transportation plans, statewide foundational documents, and coalition and partner feedback. The full charter text is on our US 101 business plan website, as well as part of the presentation package included in the staff report.
As already mentioned, the business plan builds on existing corridor plans and studies, and the projects that we identify in the business plan were all pulled directly from existing local and regional plans. We are aware that some of the covers on the slide are outdated, but I want to assure you that we use the most up-to-date regional transportation plans. And one more note on this, we really wanted to build upon previous success of the coalition and proceed to raise the region's profile. Next slide, please. The US 101 business plan helps us state a business case for making investments in the US 101 corridor and helps us present a unified front to inform statewide priorities for investment, such as SB1, infra, and build, just to name a few. And as you may be aware, there are a lot of new discretionary funding programs coming out in the near future, thanks to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And just to give a very recent example, we're actually referencing the draft US 101 business plan in our Caltrans SBCAG joint SB1 nomination. And going back to the intended outcomes, the plan will also provide input to statewide plans like the California Transportation Plan, the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, and the California Freight Mobility Plan. And the last thing I want to mention here is that the business plan can also serve as a resource that we can share with other neighboring Caltrans districts that US 101 goes through to continue our efforts to improve US 101 across regions.
All right, and as Vanessa previously touched on, we went through an extensive process of looking at all of our partners' regional transportation plans and other planning documents to create a comprehensive matrix that contained all of the goals that are shown on the screen. This helped us identify 5 primary goal areas that are shared by all transportation stakeholders on the Central Coast, those being safety and health, sustainability and climate change, economy, mobility, and equity. And it was important to us to make sure that our partners and stakeholders can take ownership of these goals and that our goals also align with Executive Orders N1919 and N7920, which means that we are supporting the state's climate goals while also pushing for the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and vehicle miles traveled. Our fact sheet lists these goals and their objectives and can be found again on the US 101 business plan website and as part of the presentation materials linked in the agenda. Excuse me. The business plan also identifies and defines 5 priority project types that connect directly to the plan's goals. These include operational improvements and conflict point reduction, alternative fuel charging stations and air pollutant reduction, freight and good movements improvements, freeway conversion and new interchanges, and bike, ped, transit, rail, and park and ride improvements. Completing or funding a project listed within these priority project types would directly accomplish the intended goals and objectives previously outlined and move the needle to a more resilient and sustainable corridor. In other words, an operational improvement project would meet the safety goal, while a new interchange would meet the mobility goal, just to name a couple of examples. We wanted to highlight that the priority projects under these project types were obtained directly from partnering regional transportation plans. The business plan itself does not propose any new improvements or developments that have not otherwise been vetted and considered by our partners. And for a detailed list of all selected priority projects and a definition of our priority project types, we did have the business plan linked on SBCAG's programming website. And then for a more regionally specific snippet of priority projects, we also included a PDF of priority project tables included as part of the presentation package within the agenda.
These next couple of slides are short ones, as I will not be reading through everything that is listed on these slides. With that said, we needed an objective reasoning of which projects to include in the business plan. On this slide right here is a listing of the considerations, but it's also not the exhaustive list. And we use these considerations to determine if a project should be in the business plan. And I also want to point out that the business plan and the project list will be updated in the future. So this is not a stagnant list. Next slide, please. Okay. So we also came up with some considerations for non-highway improvements that would be included in the business plan, because we were concerned about possibly including too many non-highway projects. And this is the US 101 business plan after all. And all of these considerations link the non-highway project directly to US 101. Next slide. To wrap this presentation up, I wanted to again say that this plan was developed with the Central Coast Coalition collaboration, and the business plan reinforces priority improvements for the coalition along the US 101 corridor. We hope that the business plan will provide the roadmap to help our communities achieve their goals and fund projects in the US 101 corridor. And just a reminder, the draft document is available on the SBCAG programming website. And it does include all of the projects and everything else that we just mentioned. Please send Matt and I your feedback by November 30th. Our contact information is on the slide. And that's all I have for today. So thank you so much for having us here. Are there any questions?
Let's do questions North County first.
No questions.
South County.
Director Sierra has one. I guess I need clarification. You have non-highway projects. This US 101 business plan is supposed to prioritize investments that benefit the US 101 corridor, but you've got some non-highway projects like the Hollister Avenue. Excuse me, Paula, I don't mean to put any projects down. I just don't understand how they correlate to the 101. The Hollister Avenue Class 1 bike path to Elwood School, the La Crumba Junior High multi-use path on MODOC, the Franklin Creek multi-use from Carp Avenue to 7th Street. How do these fit into the US 101 corridor plan?
Can we maybe go back a few slides, Matt, to show the non-highway considerations? So I'm not exactly sure about the exact examples you just gave, but we did put them through the non-highway considerations to make sure that the projects aligned with the US 101 business plan. I don't know if there's more follow-up questions.
I can help also, Vanessa. So through the chair, Director Sierra, this has been an evolution. You know, at first it was going to be Highway 101, but we're also taking a multimodal approach and looking at how these non-highway improvements can also improve access to Highway 101 to potentially improve the status of the corridor. So while we're including the highway components to elevate the importance of it, there are also these other elements too that are helping mobility for 101.
Thank you. I still have problems with, I mean, multi-use is pedestrian, bicycles, and you're not going to be using them to get onto the highway. But I guess my question, when this is completed, it will be prioritized, correct, as to what, the list is incredible. I mean, you have one of the longest, I thought my to-do list was long. This is just, wow. But it does get prioritized for the 101 corridor, where perhaps the non-highway wouldn't be as high on the list?
No, the highway projects are prioritized. They're also included in their different categories as priorities. So once this is complete, then we're gonna, we're gonna use this as an advocacy tool with state and federal partners, just to show the significance of 101. As Vanessa mentioned, when the Central Valley and Executive Director Kern, if she wants to add on to this, when they completed their Highway 99 business plan, they were in an excellent position, because then the state decided to do Proposition 1B. And as part of Proposition 1B, they actually allocated $1 billion for Highway 99. So that's what we're trying to do here is highlight the significance of the 101 improvements.
Right.
But then there are also these ancillary improvements. Maybe like an example is an interchange project where we're going to highlight while the interchange project is going to improve operations, there are also going to be bicycle and pedestrian elements that will also improve access for the local community. And so that's the approach that we're taking with the business plan.
Terrific. And hopefully we'll
And
get our
Director-
$1 billion too.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
That would help. Director Eads, you wanted to give us, shine some light on this as well.
Well, actually, Sarkis did a pretty good job of covering part of what I was going to say, and that is that.
Yeah, usually does.
You know, the benefit here is that we're able to focus on future funding opportunities. Bikeways can serve as an alternative to 101 and maybe keep some cars off of 101. And then we also would be looking to those types of improvements to package with mainline improvements to help us be successful with future grant opportunities, depending on what those are.
Thank you, Mr. Eads.
Any further questions online or from South County?
Just another last comment, or maybe not the last comment, because Bob Nelson just raised his
I
hand.
see Mr. Nelson.
Let me jump in here real quick.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so I was just looking over the list. One of the items on here was Santa Maria Levee multi-use trail, and it was listed at about $249,000. And I believe that after the board had the hearing on this item to make sure it had all of the important features of it, it was considerably higher. I think it was in more the $5 to $10 million range. And so just want to make sure that that accurately is reflected in the business plan.
So through the chair, Director Nelson, that may have been for project development costs, but we'll go back and make sure that we're accurately reflecting project development and construction.
Yeah, on there, the note does say construct multi-purpose bikeway. So it's on there as construction. At least that's the way it appears from the documents that I have here.
Okay, thank you. We'll make sure to include the correct number.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Director Nelson. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, may I add a comment? I think this business plan is an evolution. When the San Joaquin Valley business plan was established, it was, I don't even know how many years ago, 10, 15 years ago. It was definitely a highway-focused business plan, and it was very effective in identifying the funding need to solve a lot of problems along the Highway 101 corridor. This plan is evolved. It is a multimodal plan because that is what is needed to be competitive at a state and federal level for all of our projects moving forward. So I thank you, Director Sierra, for pointing that out. We need to consider multimodalism in everything we do moving forward. And this business plan adequately and appropriately identifies those improvements moving forward, just so we're all aware that it's an all-encompassing proposal when we request funding in the future needs to include these components. So thank you for Caltrans for making that happen.
We have a question from Director Waterfield. Director Waterfield.
Thank you very much. I met with staff yesterday and they noted that the following interchange are identified on the project list: the US 101 McCoy, US 101 Betaravia, US 101 Main Street, and US 101 Broadway, SR 135, including SMART, SMRT, miscellaneous project. The reference to SMAT is noted in the project list. It needs to be changed to SMART, SMRT. If you could do that, that would be great.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Waterfield. Let's move on to 1-minute reports. Anyone from North County have a 1-minute report?
Sure, I'll go ahead.
You're like that kid in the front of the classroom raising the hand high.
Exactly. Oh, Mr. Cotta.
Or Shaq.
All right. So coming up in Solvang, we have this coming Saturday, couple of events. One is called the Arts and Craft Show. It's a sale at Bethania Lutheran Church. It's actually a benefit for our food bank that we have going on there to serve our undernourished community in the San Ynez Valley. The hours are from 10 to 3. That's at Bethania Lutheran Church. At 5 o'clock, same evening, over at the Vets Hall, we have our turkey bingo, which is a benefit directly for Solvang School. And that is from 5 to 9, and the doors open at 4 p.m. And that's just for this coming Saturday. For all of you that want to work off some of the turkey that you're getting on next Thursday for Thanksgiving, we have on Friday, November 25th at 10 a.m. our turkey trot. It's a 5K fun run and walk. And then lastly, we have coming up December 2nd, Friday night, our Christmas tree lighting in Solvang Park from 5 to 6:30. And the following day, Saturday, December 3rd at 11 is our, what I like to call the best little Christmas town in the county, parade in the county. And that'll be going on all in Solvang. During the course of the weeks going forward, there will also be a light show set to music going on in Solvang Park to kind of further enhance our, hopefully, again, in the top 10 of best Christmas town in the country. Thank you.
We got one. Director Lavina. Anybody that wants to participate in a road cleanup, I'm teaming up with Council Member Carlos Escobedo in Santa Maria, and he has put together a team of almost 30 volunteers. We're going to go out along Blosser Road in Santa Maria, and I've committed to purchasing food for everybody afterwards. So 11:30 in the morning on Saturday, if you want to meet at Blosser and Taylor, or give my office a call, we'll put you in the right spot.
Awesome. How about ones from South County?
Your one person in South County would like to talk, Director Sierra. I drove down to Santa Barbara. This is my last meeting with SBCAG, and I'm sitting here alone, although I've got company down below. I just wanted to thank SBCAG. The staff is incredible. Working with Caltrans and elected officials for the last 12 years, it has been an education and an honor, and I thank you all very much.
I think I speak for everyone when I say that a big part of how great this organization has been you, Holly. So, Director Pro.
Director Sierra, I'm so sad I'm not there to give you a big hug, but we need to get together. We'll miss you. You've been a great asset, and it's been enjoyable getting to know you better. And wow, term limits. Sad. Anyway, my report today is mainly about what we did at our last council meeting. Last Tuesday night, we established something we've been wanting to do for quite a while, established a green fleet policy plan. So we're moving forward. We have besides an aging fleet, there's immediate need to expand our organization. So we need more vehicles, and our vehicles are aging out. And so it's perfect timing. We'll have to do it in phases, but and we realize there's time to wait for certain vehicles that we would like to purchase. So, but we're moving forward with that. And I'm really glad we've been talking about it for a while, and it's finally happening. End of report.
Don't forget to remind your staff that we do fund fleet vehicles at 3CE, and because you are a 3CE member, that we do that. So if they're all electric.
Thank you for that.
Other reports? Then I will move on to the Executive Director's report.
Yes.
Margie.
Thank you so much, Chair. Chair Williams, I appreciate it. And I'm so sad that Holly is not, we just expect you to go to Santa Maria. That's why I'm, so I'm really apologize for that miscommunication. But I do want to recognize our outgoing board members. We have 3 today that this will be their last official meeting. Unfortunately, Director Hart could not make this meeting because he's already training for his next job. And so he had to be in Sacramento today. But he is resigning from our board effective December 3rd. So this is his official last meeting. So I wanted to recognize him. We are recording this, so we're going to send this to him. If we're able to get him to come back, and we'll give him some other reward for some other thing and honor him in another way. But I do want to talk about Greg and excuse me, Director Hart and say some nice words. So no stranger to SBCAG, Director Greg Hart has served as the original manager of our Traffic Solutions Program and ultimately ended as the Deputy Executive Director of SBCAG prior to being elected to the County Supervisor. As Director, he did not skip a beat. He continued to champion the issues that matter the most to our agency, whether that has been delivering on the Highway 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara project, expanding our rail service, increasing funding for transit, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, as well as creating new opportunities for affordable housing. Director Hart has been a central voice on the Highway 154 task force, safety task force. We watched him organize and motivate residents to participate in the 2020 census and advocate for our priorities in Sacramento and in DC. While the day-to-day Hart in the office of SBCAG and the monthly meetings of the SBCAG board, along with his rich history and influence, he will be greatly missed. We know that he will not be far from us in the halls of the state capitol in Sacramento and as the elected assembly member for the 37th district. We look forward to working closely with Assembly Member Hart. We got to get used to that new name. And we have some framed a few photos so we can remember and reminisce about all the great times he had at SBCAG. We are also giving him an agency pin to remind him of his home while he's in Sacramento. These photos are of his work on promoting local, green, and sustainable transportation options. It's going to be a little, I don't know how we can show this to everybody, but the electric, we got him on the bike at the Santa Claus Lane groundbreaking. The debut of the Clean Air Express bus in Buellton. Yeah. And most recently, we got a photo of him at the California Transportation Commission, our Santa Barbara visit and reception with his now fellow colleagues, Senator Limon and Newman, along with Assembly Member Bennett. So I'm sure he's going to enjoy his new role and experience, but I would bet he's going to miss us greatly. Next, I want to recognize Director Charlie Urich. Charlie, it's been too short. I'm sorry, but it has been too short. You joined in the heart of the pandemic, so we barely even got to see you in person. I had to go to Buellton to watch him play his music, so and that was a very enjoyable event. But as part of your 2-year mayoral term in service, you jumped right in and were part of the family. We really appreciate everything you brought to the table. Despite juggling multiple responsibilities as a public servant, you are also a public safety officer, a musician, and father and husband. You prioritize SBCAG and your regional service with a focus on improving transportation infrastructure and housing for those you serve. Even though it's gone by way too fast, under your leadership, we have done much in the last 2 years, even under COVID. We had our Highway 154 task force, and as a member of the task force, you were central in the 2021 virtual town hall, diving into questions and sharing your insights with our partners, CHP and Caltrans, on behalf of the residents of Solvang and the commuters that use that road every day, such as yourself. The broadband strategic plan, as a director, you oversaw the development from birth, anticipation of the adoption this next coming month of the SBCAG board, which will pave a better and smarter and more affordable broadband service for our residents countywide. Your efforts to help improve and moving this work forward has positioned Santa Barbara County as a leader in the state of California and the nation on regional coordination and collaboration on broadband. We also worked on the Connected 2050 regional housing needs, 2050 plan and the regional housing needs process. You oversaw the two most foundational tasks of SBCAG as a regional transportation agency, the adoption of $11.3 billion regional transportation plan and the completed multi-year regional housing needs assessment allocation process. Above all, you shared with us your personal goals as mayor were to bring government transparency and honesty back to Solvay. And you have done that. We have benefited from your efforts. While you have been a fierce and honest champion for the community you serve, you have also been one for SBCAG as well. We thank you for diving into our work and for always working to share our efforts and latest news with your own community. You brought your events that were happening in Solvay to us, and you brought our events that were happening to Solvay. Our only wish is that we had more time together. You could always run for the city of Buellton or any other office, and we'd be happy to support you in that. We have framed a few photos of your time as director and giving you an SBCAG agency pin that I'm sure you're going to wear everywhere you go to remind you of your work benefiting all of Santa Barbara County. The photos are of the Solvay State of the City event with your fellow SBCAG colleagues and champions. And you also were at our California Transportation Commission reception, and we have a great photo of you with your colleagues as well enjoying the event. So thank you so much for everything you've brought to the agency.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sir, I'm so used to doing Zoom, I'm talking into my laptop. Thank you. I didn't get a chance to have in those other comments, but it's been my honor to be part of this group. And I do know it's a short time, but I feel really strongly that my alternate, Mayor-elect Mark Infante, will take up the mantle, and he will be a part of SBCAG and APCD going forth, as well as North County Subregional. So that's already set up, as far as I know.
Yes.
And so hopefully Solvang will be well represented for the next few years. So thank you again for being a part and letting me be a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Director Holly Sierra, our Buellton Mayor. This is a difficult goodbye for SBCAG Director and Mayor Sierra. You joined SBCAG in 2010 as then Councilmember Sierra, and subsequently you became the first elected mayor of the city of Buellton in 2016. You have truly been a tremendous advocate in public service on our board for the last 12 years. Your history, thoughtful insight, breadth of experience on local, state, and federal level has left its mark on our agency, throughout our agency. Notably, your steadfast leadership and perseverance in moving forward initiatives and projects that prioritize pedestrian safety on all roadways locally and regionally in Santa Barbara County. On roadway safety, because of your advocacy, Highway 246 essential public service safety improvements have been elevated. This has always been your #1 issue since the day I first met you, and from the time you were first elected into office. So consistency is key. This work continues thanks solely to your efforts in moving them forward. And Measure A. With the last few years, we have witnessed Measure A receiving its highest revenues since the start of its collection of the transportation sales tax. And you have been there since the beginning and have been part of the development of the Sycamore Road Safe Routes to School Improvements project on Highway 246. And thank you for your presence in countless milestone celebrations for Measure A throughout the county. Holly always showed up, and she supported us every step of the way. You've been at the table for not just one of the few updates of the RTP, but several of the updates of the RTP, the Regional Transportation Plan, and the Regional Housing Needs Allocation Process. And your voice on statewide associations like CalCUG will be sorely missed. Because of you, we have been able to elevate awareness in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. And yes, you finally got to go to Washington, D.C. This past year, even though COVID canceled a few of our trips. So we were able to we advocate for investments we are making and need to make in the future for state and transportation infrastructure in Santa Barbara County. While you often say that you've learned a lot from your time serving on SBCAG board, and I think you just said that a few minutes ago, I will be remiss if I did not mention the fact that it is true for us in reverse. Our team has learned a great deal from working with you over the years. We will truly miss and wish you much happiness and good health in your next adventure. But don't go too far. Perhaps we can recruit you for another committee, like our Citizens Measure A, Citizens Oversight Committee. So we know we have your number, I have your cell phone, I know where to find you. We also have some framed photos of your time as a director, which I hope you'll look on fondly as you hang it up in your beautiful house. We want to also give you a pin, you can wear it, and when you show up at any of our future events. To commemorate the past 12 years and the legacy you have left us for the years to come. The photos are of the Sycamore Road Safe Routes to School Improvement Project on 246, groundbreaking, and the California legislative trip that we did in Sacramento with the Central Coast Coalition. It's a picture of you by the bear, where we're petting the bear with now newly elected Assembly Member Greg Hart. So with that, I want to pass it over to Director Sierra if she wants to say any final words, and that will complete my report.
Thank you very much. That was incredibly generous. It's been a blast. Working with everybody, it's just been quite an honor. And unlike Director Uhrig, I'm not sure who the mayor of Buellton will be, not yet. Hopefully by Friday afternoon or tomorrow afternoon, we've gone back and forth. I have 2 council members, my vice mayor and a council member who ran for the position. And first it was a 20 vote, now I think it's a 39 vote difference. It's gone back and forth. So I just want to let SBCAG know that whoever takes over as mayor of Buellton will be honored to serve on SBCAG, and I hope that you get somebody who's as excited to serve as I have been. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, can I comment?
Yes, Director Lavenia.
So I don't have the list in front of me anymore of who's on. I'm trying to think board of directors who's, I think now that Holly and I think came in at the same time maybe, but it's been a long time.
You guys are
I think we're the, yeah.
And Al Clark and
Yeah. Al's never like, yeah. But I wish people, the community got to watch more and spend more time watching SBCAG, because you look at these 3 individuals that are leaving. That is what public service is all about. With Charlie being a public safety officer and also serving his community. Greg, if you look at the way Greg's handled it himself, especially on the Board of Supervisors, it can be very contentious. He brought an air of congeniality to our board. And Holly just epitomizes what a small town mayor is all about. It's been really great working with you guys. And like I said, I wish the public got to see more of how it's supposed to be done, doing the work of the people. And maybe if we had more of our state leaders and congressional leaders watching SBCAG and some of our small town stuff, they might learn something from us. So I just want to say thank you for your service. It's been great working with you guys. Thank you. Likewise.
Well, before we go on to the Caltrans directors, I do want to take the point of chair's privilege to say something about you three collectively. I think in an age where both extremes have gotten more unreasonable in other parts of the country, it is so amazing to serve with people who have governed with reasonable questions, expectations, willingness to work with others. It really is an honor. Let's before everyone go to the Scott Eads report. Sorry, Scott, that people are dropping off. We're still here.
Scott, you're muted. You're muted.
So sorry, I hit mute and I guess I didn't totally click on it. Sorry about that. So thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Scott Eads here. First, I will try to make this quick, but first I will say thank you to Director Sierra and Director Ureg for your service. It really has been a pleasure with you and working with you, and I wish you the best in your next adventures. A couple of safety related items that I just wanted to pass on. FHWA just announced a national roadway safety strategy to help address roadway safety. It's focused towards states, but of course local jurisdictions and others that are within states have a focus there as well. So it requires each state to complete a vulnerable road user safety assessment. So that's something that's new to us. We'll be working on that at Caltrans. The USDOT has also adopted a safe systems approach, which in some ways changes the way that we think about safety. Caltrans has also adopted this approach and has been working to integrate that into what we do. The principles of safe systems approach are recognizing that, our goal should be zero in terms of deaths that are happening on our roadways, and just also recognizing that humans make mistakes, humans are vulnerable, and that safety is a shared responsibility, and it's shared by the roadway owners, vehicle manufacturers, researchers, roadway users, amongst others, and that there's a new focus on proactive safety and a recognition that we need redundancy. So there's a lot more to it. You can look it up online in terms of just type in safe systems approach or this NRSS, which is that new strategy. And the other thing I wanted to highlight is that on a related note, Caltrans has been coordinating closely with the CHP on a few safety campaigns recently. One of those is about impaired driving, another on drowsy driving, another on distracted driving, and a fourth on speeding and aggressive driving. So I think we're all very aware of these challenges. Each of these campaigns include a public information component as well, which you will probably have seen out there, including messages on changeable message signs, the Caltrans controls, and then there's an increased enforcement component as well. So these are all made possible to the Office of Traffic Safety, by and large are funded through there, and these are important efforts. That's all I have. Happy to take any questions.
I just have a comment.
Go ahead, Director Ureg. Sorry for being slow on the mute button.
I just wanted to thank Scott and District 5 Caltrans for working with me for many, many years, specifically in Solvang for a ton of the special events, road closures that we've had to, that the community has had to endure through Solvang, as I always hear. And but again, just it's a pleasure working with you and all of your staff up at District 5, going through the permitting process and everything that's related to that, as well as working on the Highway 154 Safety Committee. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Other questions from the north or south? Then from online? Then I have just one brief comment that the business plan brought up, because one of the priorities is electric charging, and the easiest places to put high-speed chargers are on your own land. So our rest stops have been out of commission for a long, long time. When are those going to be online with your amazing free 50 kilowatt charging stations?
That is a great question, and I need to look quickly through my list. I know that we are continuing work, and our goal is to get those open as soon as we can, but those are pretty involved efforts. So I'll follow up with you on that.
That's absolutely fine. I just wanted to make sure, you know, it's always good when we start in our own house, right? It's the easiest to implement. So
I have a question for Director Eads. Through the chair. Okay.
Go ahead. Yes.
Scott, do you have an announcement of future retirement that's happening?
Yes, if we want to make that official here. So some of you may have heard that Mr. Tim Gubbins, our district director, has announced his retirement. So they're working on a replacement strategy now, but we're certainly going to miss Tim, and we'll make sure that he shows up at a future meeting. He supposedly, his last day is on the 16th of December, so I don't know if that'll work for, I don't know if we're looking at a December meeting, but we will, Margie, you and I will be coordinating to see if we can wrangle Tim to make sure he makes one of the meetings as well, to be able to say goodbye to everybody. I know that's important to him.
Please, Scott, if he is not immediately going on a wild and crazy post-retirement vacation, we would invite him to the December meeting and otherwise to a subsequent.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you both for your long term and excellent partnership. Anyone else questions for Director Eads? Thank you, Mr. Eads. Then I will adjourn this meeting to next month in December. Thank you all for bearing with us today with multiple locations and technical challenges.
Thanks, everyone.